I'm always known as the conservative guy in Egypt, okay? And
No harm in being conservative if you run a $600 million business.
I was one of the people who were not convinced with the methodology and the approach of investors in the ecosystem.
Sure.
I think they have spoiled the ecosystem to the extent that the only harmed people are those young guys that started businesses.
Joining me on the couch today is, I think, one of the originals of Fintech. It is the CEO and founder of Fawry.
Last year, we have been subject to a ransomware attack. Luckily, it was in our testing environment. But to tell you the truth, before this point in time, I was quite confident that we are very good. But after the event, I had to dig deep myself into this security. We discovered many things that we have to really do and do better. Although we are PCI certified, we have the firewalls, we have the intrusion detection, we have everything. Okay, you tick the boxes, the boxes are there. But it is about the culture, it is about the right implementation of the boxes, it is about having very expensive resources and very expensive tools, and it is about realizing that it is not as easy as you think.
So welcome to today's episode of Couchonomics with Arjun. Joining me on the couch today is, I think, one of the originals of Fintech, although he's going to correct me in 2 minutes about that. It is the CEO and founder of Fawry. I actually don't know how to explain what Fawry is, because Fawry practically now does everything in the world of financial services. They were founded, I guess, in the second half of 2008. That's over 15, 16 years ago. They were originally in bill payments, but since then they have expanded. But I guess enough from me, because we're here to hear from Ashraf. So Ashraf, welcome to the couch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming all the way from Cairo.
No, I mean, thank you very much for the invitation. And I have to tell you, I enjoy couches very much because of my size. So
I just hope it's comfortable.
It is very comfortable.
Right, that's good to hear.
I mean, no, thank you for the invitation. And I have followed you, and I think what you are presenting is really deep thoughts about what's happening in the industry, which is important.
No, thank you. Yeah, and I think it's important that, the industry learns from people like you and others who have, taken up upon yourselves to, I guess, take the risk and create businesses, which is unlocking so much value. I think that brings me to the first question, right? I mentioned Fawry started in 2008. Give us a little bit of the early days, in the sense what led to the creation of Fawry, and just paint a picture from 2008 to where you guys are today.
Sure. Well, investment led to the creation of Fawry, and having an end of career within Raya, which is actually my previous employer and was my prime investor in Fawry. Investment because at Raya I had the opportunity to go, to raise capital and all the stuff. And the more I meet investors, they told me, where is the recurring part of your revenue? And so I understood that recurring revenue is something that investors like. So the moment I decided that I'm going to quit Raya and do something else, I said it has to be in recurring investment. And actually payment was like, very, very obvious that it is recurring. And for some reason, I thought that processing of payments, whether it is issuing or driving ATMs or point of sales, is very, I would say, not basic, but I mean, there is nothing in it, and competition will be on the platform, not on the ideas and all this stuff. So we found that bill payment is something that Egyptians are suffering from, and we started it, and then it goes.
So obviously, before we sat down, you were talking about the evolution of Fawry from bill payments. What are the various lines of businesses that you operate today?
Now we are, I would say, in payment. We are in lending. We are in cash management services. We are in saving, in insurance, in B2B supply chain. But I have to tell you something. One of the lessons that I learned as well, that when you diversify, leverage your existing competences. Don't diversify because you want to diversify. And I think this is exactly what we have done. So we started with the idea of, we have many stakeholders. So a telco is serving 20 million Egyptians. So they want to access the telco. This evolved that we have an agent network of around 200,000, 300,000, now 350,000 agents that are buying from multiple FMCG companies. So, it is the same relation, many to many. Can we link those together? Yes, we can, leveraging the same platform. And then we said, those guys are buying from those suppliers and they need finance, working capital finance to make life easier. So we had the FMCGs and we have the retailers and we can link them through lending, which served both ends. So it is another layer above what is being offered. And, you look then into the consumer side, you'll find exactly the same story. What I'm trying to tell you that the beauty of diversifying, leveraging your platform by adding steps to what you are doing is very much crucial to the success of Fawry.
No, so I totally get it. So you've built an excellent ecosystem, right, which is leveraging your platform. I guess you've taken the platform to the next level, which is, unfortunately, in our consulting speak, we start using the word ecosystem.
Yeah.
But there is a certain level of complexity in the business because you are catering to the end consumer.
Yes.
Right. And if I understand it, within that end consumer, you tend to target the mass market.
Yes.
Right. And then on the other hand, you have a business which targets businesses.
Yes.
Right. And in that also you have an entire spectrum because while we were talking earlier, you were saying you're not only targeting the micro and small businesses, but the medium to large corporates, right, are also your customers.
Absolutely.
Right? So at the end of the day, how are you managing this complexity in terms of ingesting all this information that is coming from the consumer and the customer, which says this is how we are changing, this is what our behaviors are evolving, and then you actually turn that into decisions, technologies, operations. It's not that easy.
Exactly what I told you. It is eating step by step.
Right.
So we have millions of consumers paying hundreds of billers.
Okay.
This is the corporate side. This is the consumer side. We are serving those consumers through retail agents. So then the retailers come into the and then we are enabling banks to enable their customers to pay to the same billers. So now you have the corporate client, you have the consumer, you have the small business, you have the financial industry. And all of this is connected through a single platform. And the reason that we are capable of digesting is the idea that we did not, it is, unfortunately, it is like my problem with gaining weight, okay? You gain 100 grams every day, okay? And then you come at a point of time surprised that you have gained 20 kilos, okay? But during your journey of gaining 100 kilometers, you didn't eat all of the food to make you 100 or 20 kilograms more. So I think the idea of, again, adding to what you have and leveraging what you have is key to your ability to link all these businesses together, which is a huge barrier to entry for anybody. And the other thing is key to being able to control those different lines of business within the same business environment. So it is a natural growth and diversification. And this was it.
This was it. So Ashraf, let's dig a little bit deeper because I think, so are you familiar with the concept of flywheels?
Yes.
Right? It's a sort of a Jeff Bezos, Amazon. I don't know, it may have pre-existed right?
Yeah.
So the way I understand it is you've created two fairly good flywheels and actually they're connected to each other.
Yes.
Right? So if I take the consumer flywheel, right, a very key part. So I guess there's 2 or 3 elements to that flywheel. Keep adding new consumers to it.
Yes.
Get greater share of wallet.
Yes.
Right. So give them more products.
Yes.
And then, continue to grow your margin on those products because you eventually want to create profitable products, profitable customers, right? What is the secret sauce in this flywheel, according to you? How do you keep adding new customers? How do you keep adding new product? What's the sort of secret sauce out here?
It's, the more you are keeping it convenient and aggregated for the consumer, the more it is easier. And the more you are building a good brand and a good level of service, the more it is trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And in finance and payment, if you don't have trust and a good brand, then it will not work.
Yeah.
So we were focused on that. And to give you an example, how we decide not to go for something, okay? So we deliberately decide that we're not going to have our Fawry application, which is the super app or whatever they name it, okay, into e-commerce. Because managing the supply chain, managing the deliveries, handling the complaints of customers, all of this is like impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And we checked against many of the super apps to understand the real contribution of the hundred of services into their super app. And we found that it always lies between the financial services driving the rest, and the others are nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, well, we are going to go only for digital services, whatever it is, plus the financial services. But would this mean that we have actually decided to eliminate commerce from the business? No. Okay. We said we are going to leverage our acceptance arm and our consumer offering by having Fawry as an acceptance brand on the e-commerce sites, which means the friction is not there, but the trust in the logistics and the delivery and all the stuff is within the e-commerce platform rather than within Fawry. So it is key that when you are looking at the flywheel, as you said, you are really looking into how to make it happen easily and to take the difficult decision of what to make and what not to make.
And I think that is critical, and I think this is where people actually sometimes, in my view, get their whole super app or multifunctional app wrong. There is a very straightforward 80-20, if not a 95-5.
Absolutely.
Right, in terms of where the marginal growth comes from. For something else, which and correct me if I've got this wrong, but something what I truly love about your business model is you guys are truly phygital, right? You guys are providing face-to-face capability where it's required, right? You have a massive agent network and you're using digital. So you're not trying to be overly wedded to a particular form of servicing, because your view is we start with the customer, and if the customer finds it convenient. So was that always a conscious decision? Or
absolutely. And let me add something to you, which is we have a manned network, a Fawry manned network called Fawry Plus of 300 branches across the country.
Right.
So we have the agent network, which is not ours, but we have this 300 branches that are serving our customers as well.
And what do they service? Like, what do they provide?
They provide KYC services.
Right.
Because digital KYC is not available yet in Egypt. And then when digital KYC will be available in Egypt, it will be available for consumers. It will not be available for small businesses. So they will serve the small businesses. They serve walk-in customers for complaints that cannot be handled over the phone. And there are many customers that have this issue. And they serve portraying the Fawry image in the minds of the consumer, that we are a big organization supporting them. And the more you are in finance, the more you understand that being big, reputable, strong is something that consumers are looking for.
Yeah, trust is implicit.
no way without trust.
Exactly. And I think that is one of the reasons where I think a number of digital banks actually historically have underestimated the importance of trust for their growth. It's very interesting. Last year I was in Singapore and I actually ran a roundtable for Singapore Fintech Festival. And we had, I think, a dozen or 14 CEOs and senior executives from different digital banks. And what was unanimous across all 14 was, and some of them said that we knew it from the very beginning, trust was important. But quite a lot of them actually said that we underestimated the importance of trust. And I think as you put that visual, that physical feel, sometimes, and specifically in markets which are hugely diverse, and let's be honest, Egypt is over 100 million people, if I'm not wrong, trust is, if I'm saying trust is accessed in a number of different ways. And that physical appearance.
Absolutely. I mean, I can tell you that I always used, when we have the payment success rate and all that stuff, and then my people would tell me that, we are at 99% rate, and they looked like being happy. And I always used the example of the aeroplanes. And I told them, if you know that every 100 flights, one will
fall from the sky.
Fall in the sky. Will you go there?
Fair enough. That's a bit unfair, but okay, I understand where you're coming from.
But it is to portray the importance
of that 1%.
And this whole idea, because I'm always asked the question, would you be a digital bank or not? And I think, people are missing on the main driver of money in the bank, which is lending, okay? And when you look at the history of all digital banks, it started on a prepaid card that is making its revenue out of interchange. Mm-hmm. And there is no interchange. And high customer acquisition and cost and all the stuff. So, there was no real use case.
I agree.
And I am always from the opinion that I don't underestimate what banks will do. So I fully believe that the majority of the impact of many of the digital banks and the fintech players is that they made banks move quicker and think better.
I totally agree. I think that they have actually helped consumers experience something which is different, and they've changed the expectation from the consumers towards their incumbent providers. And now, as you said, banks, insurance companies, others had no choice but to start evolving because...
And they've started.
Yeah.
I mean, if you recall, the main use case of companies like Revolut or Monzo or whatever, with this currency exchange issue that you're not going to pay the high exchange rates when you are abroad. Okay, look at the banks in the UK now. All the banks have the same service.
All of them are offering the same stuff.
So what I'm trying to say is the overall notion of being a sub bank doesn't work. Okay, you can be in a sub market, but a full bank. So if you are not lending, if you are not offering insurance services, if you are not offering deposit services, if you are not doing the entire thing, then probably you will be, you cannot turn out.
I don't think you can have a full banking sort of business model. Then I think you're playing in different parts of the value chain. I think now you've got things like banking as a service and so on and so forth. You can choose to play around it. I totally agree. My view here is, to me, banking is banking, whether it's delivered 100% digitally or partly digitally and physically. To me, that's a choice that you have made in terms of how you want to acquire your customer and serve your customer. But the view is the lines are blurring, right? Yesterday, I was presenting to a very large bank. I had a 2-hour session where we were talking about open banking, banking as a service, and embedded finance, and the concept of fintech came up. And I said, right, guys, today you have JP Morgan, which makes $50 billion a year in profit. And if I'm not wrong, I think last year they spent $7 billion on technology. Mm-hmm. I said, to me, why is that not a fintech, right? That $7 billion is a bigger spend than, I don't know, top 100 fintechs in the world.
Look,
right?
I think the only, banks are slower by nature than smaller companies. but they come out to be more robust. Okay, so if you are doing the traditional things, banks will catch up. Don't imagine banks will not catch up. Okay, customer experience, better UX, all of this will be resolved. Okay, so unless you have something that is really, really, really different, and you know for sure that banks cannot jump quickly into that, okay, it will not happen. And if you look at what happened in the US, the real success is Venmo. P2P, instant paying, using your email, something completely different. Okay? But it is not, and even if there is, some of those guys who are starting lending, you will find that the JP Morgan will acquire them and they will come into the whole story. And so what I'm trying to say is we should not underestimate the banks, and we should really to find ways where we can integrate into the banks.
And even Venmo came out of PayPal. So, and PayPal's been around for...
To me, PayPal is what started everything.
True.
Okay. And then the Chinese were smarter than PayPal. Okay. But PayPal have retuned into the same direction.
Yeah, China's unique too. I think China's unique in the market. When the super apps came around, the concept is different. I think it's a closed economy in a lot of ways. Things operate in China very differently.
But this is the first time you see that it is born in the East.
Yep.
And
adopted in the West.
Yeah. And this was never the scenario.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
It was never the scenario.
And although it started, I think PayPal with the first real fintech company.
True.
You had your PayPal account, you had your PayPal acceptance, which is different. They tried going into the stores. I cannot recall how, but it didn't work well.
No, it didn't.
And then they moved right and left and all this stuff. But when you really think, who is the first non-bank account that was at scale in the world, it was the PayPal account.
It was PayPal account. Yeah, no, okay. You're right. I remember PayPal long ago.
Yeah.
I had a PayPal account.
Yeah.
It was not easy. So let me take a step back.
Sure.
Ashraf, I'm going to ask you to sort of take a vantage position of someone who's seen the evolution. So what's your state of the nation if you were to talk about fintech or the startup environment in Egypt like? So, give me a feel on what's going well, where do you think there are gaps, so on and so forth.
Look, I'm always known as the conservative guy in Egypt, okay? And
no harm in being conservative if you run a $600 million business.
I was one of the people who were not convinced with the methodology and the approach of investors in the ecosystem.
Sure.
I think they have spoiled the ecosystem to the extent that the only harmed people are those young guys that started businesses. And 4 years ago, okay, you have an idea, it is $20 million. you have an idea on a presentation, it can turn out to I don't know what, okay. And then you were requested to grow, and everybody was working for the next round of investment.
Mm-hmm.
And this, from my perspective, have ruined everything. And unfortunately, the guys that were running those businesses were young enough not to understand the term sheet of the VCs and of the other investors. And it ended up, or will end up, that they have 2% or 3% of their business, because each round they are the first one to be diluted aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
And those who have invested in the last round is protected, and in the round before is protected. So I would say consolidation have to happen. Small companies, including Fawry, have to understand that working alone, competing with the whole world, and with a very solid incumbent system that is very solid is not easy. There is no free money, and I hope that people really start to consolidate. I hope that the local banks start to invest more and have funds. They are doing so, but I need more of that, because I don't want really small guys to suffer from devaluation, because it is dollar money for Egyptian revenue. And then at a point of time, you find that the company, I mean, those who have invested in dollars tell you we want our return in dollars. And as a business, I have nothing to do with your return in dollars, because my business is in Egyptian pounds.
Yep.
And so I'm asking more local money to be in the business. I'm asking banks to invest more and integrate companies into them. I'm asking companies to consolidate before they disappear. And this is my view. And we are not a typical startup. I am the founder, but I'm the founder because I have the idea. But it was not a 95% Ashraf Sabry's ownership that had been diluted over the time. It was backed by institutional investors day one. Okay. And this gave me the opportunity to hire extremely qualified people, and gave me the opportunity to have a strong board from day one, and give me the luxury that at a point of time, if you are doing well, corporates will not let go the investment. They can bear with you for another 3 years, but individuals will not. Okay. So I think it is about time to understand that if you are working in this industry, scale, money, backup, regulatory frameworks, security, compliance is an expensive exercise. And to really grow and stand alone, you have to be strong. You don't have to be an idea. And to tell you the truth, in those days, ideas are everywhere, okay? And my tutor now is YouTube. And I'm serious about that. Whenever there is an idea that pops in my mind, okay, between the Google and the YouTube, I can grasp what's happening in the world, okay? It is your ability to deliver, to scale, to grow, to diversify, to re-strategize, and all that. And so the notion that there are ideas that, you know, this might be 1 in 1,000. The majority of the people are repeating what other people have done elsewhere. And this is not something bad.
No, there's nothing bad. If you have a cutting, or if you have a differentiated view, there's nothing wrong with it.
So I mean, coming back to the big picture, more consolidation, more strong companies, more local investment, more support by the financial industry, more understanding from the regulator that, you know, those companies can be well respected, okay? But unfortunately, they will not be well respected unless they are big.
So let me explore 3 parts of that,
Sure.
right? 3 areas I'm very keen to explore. So the first in terms is my view, and again, by no means my knowledge of Egypt is even 0.5% of where you are. It's a market that I'm particularly interested in. I've had the opportunity to be associated with it for the last 10 years. In my previous job, I used to actually run a number of relationships. I struck the value relationship with Al-Futtaim, so on and so forth. Do you feel that there has been enough incubation of new businesses in the width of financial services, right? Have all the needs which could be met been already addressed? Or are majority of the fintechs just concentrating on a couple of segments and everybody is overcrowding a particular area? So what I'm saying is there variety of innovation that you're seeing, or sustainable innovation that you're seeing?
Starting. But as you know, I mean, payment was everybody. If you are in payment, you are...
and there's tremendous growth in payment, right? Because you're digitizing the economy, so on and so forth.
But I can tell you, I mean, there are huge areas that are not covered. Insurance is not there at all, okay? And InsurTech is very interesting, okay? And market that is really can have more into it. Financial operations, we were speaking about that, how to make from the from the order to cash, whether on the selling or on the buying side, completely automated, and leverage that into other financial services like lending and all this stuff is totally untouched. I would say that integrated payout solutions is something that will really evolve, okay, where payments are initiated and balances and dues are paid based on business transactions rather than based on financial transactions. All of this are open areas.
These are open areas.
Okay. And you have to really find out what you are really offering here. And I can see that I think what's happening in the world is about connectivity. I heard the other day one of your interviews, I think with the Rack Bank.
Yep, Raheel.
Okay. Yeah. And I liked his single word, how many APIs you are consuming. Okay. And actually this is what's happening. How many APIs we are consuming. Yeah. Because businesses, and you said earlier that the boundaries between the businesses are more blurring than before, and this is the reality, okay? And so when you start thinking like that, it is important. And
so my question is, what's going to trigger greater innovation in that area? Because I think you mentioned consolidation, and I get that. Success of existing players?
No, of existing or of new players mainly. Okay. I can claim, okay, that we were the first unicorn in the Middle East, actually, in the payment industry. And we made the first transaction, this was 2015, for $100 million, all secondary. And at this point of time, this was unheard of, okay? So, I mean, young people were looking at Fawry, they are making all this money, so there is an opportunity in this area, okay? So the more we have successful companies in a field, the more we will see
fast followers and innovative followers.
Yeah.
I agree.
And the other thing is that you have enough luck and you have enough good timing, and you meet good people while you are on the road. And believe me, this is believe it or not, I think it will contribute to 60% of the whole story.
Which is luck and timing?
Luck, timing, meeting good people.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
And
I think it's very essential to meet the right people, especially in a very embryonic, exploratory stage of evolution of the market.
And somebody who is willing to support.
Yep.
Because many times, I recall when I was actually establishing Fawry, and I had the opportunity to arrange for a meeting with the governor of the Central Bank of Egypt. And then, I'm going to meet the governor. Okay. And back in 2008, all what you're speaking about right now, it was like, I mean, how dare you?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
And I prepared, a deck of, studied a lot and be prepared for every single question. And then I went into the meeting room, starting to the presentation. And then at the third slide, the governor told me, it is a very good business model. Go ahead. Maybe on this day, I wouldn't have met the governor. I have met the technology guy. Okay. And maybe it is not the same governor. Okay. But what I'm trying to tell you is, and then the majority of the people that I have hired and have contributed a lot to the success, I would say 50% of them came across me in unplanned manner. So what I'm trying to tell you is I hope that there are many people who listen well and who appreciates that an idea can be something good and pamper it to grow it the right way. Okay? And if this happens more and the doors are open more for ideas, probably they will find the right people who can take care of them.
No, I agree. And that sort of brings me to my next question. And you mentioned it up there, which is collaboration between the incumbent financial institutions, banks, and I guess the new kids on the block, right? Which
Absolutely.
are fintechs. Is that actually truly, genuinely happening? Because in every part of the world, they say it's happening, but, in reality, it's always sort of one part. It's the incumbents who are forcing themselves upon, the smaller players to be more compliant. Where is Egypt in this journey? Are there enough people in the banks who are saying, something, for our digital transformation, it's actually better for us to work with these smaller companies rather than do it all in-house and, take 3 years to deliver?
It is a two-way thing for it to happen, okay? When you speak to any of the bank CEOs, and I'm sure you speak to a lot of them, and ask them, what do you think about your IT inside the bank? And how is your pipeline being managed? You will hear what I don't want to say, okay? Which means that banks realize that there are missed opportunities because they cannot move quickly to the market. Which means that if they can have arms to help them achieve that, okay, then it is a win game, okay. But on the other hand, you have to have leading people in the fintech industry that are not arrogant enough to think that they are better than every banker in the country, because they are not, okay. And they have to be humble enough to think that they can integrate with this ecosystem rather than thinking that they are going to change the entire world on their own. And this comes with maturity, but it will happen, and it is happening in Egypt. Okay.
Well, you mentioned it, right? And I'm sorry to sort of plug this into it, but I'm not sorry. I think it was something I did want to talk about it. I asked you the question around where do you develop your technology? And your answer was 100% in Egypt.
Yeah.
And
by Egyptians.
By Egyptians.
All of them are employed by the company.
Yeah.
And we think this is one of our key advantages.
And so there is a massive rapidly developing talent base.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you something that I witnessed. I like to stay with the people. I mean, I'm not a CEO that is in his office at all. Okay. The way you acquire knowledge and you acquire your skill for problem solving and your innovation skill nowadays is completely different. It is not really about what you have learned in school. We have an idea. People go into the internet, they find the group, they join the group, they throw their problem. Somebody is answering. What's happening?
It's crowdsourcing of knowledge.
It is amazing. Okay? So what I'm telling you, although maybe the education level in Egypt is not assessed to be top ranking, but for people who want to develop their skill set, the internet and the groups and the material available and everything have really created an opportunity for people that was never there. Okay? So people catch up. Okay? We are processing 5.5 million transactions a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And everybody at the beginning of this journey told me, you are developing a system that will process 100,000 transactions a day locally. And I don't want to tell you that I knew it, okay, but I discovered it. And it happened gradually, and we had all our technology problems. But no, the local talent, and I can say that this is everywhere. And that's why when they told me, what are your, expansion plans in the rest of the world? I tell them, no expansion plans in the rest of the world.
But that's interesting. So your intention is you're in Egypt. There's tremendous opportunity to grow. There's no reason to distract yourself and enter other markets.
There is tremendous opportunity to connect with other players
Totally
in all
agree
markets.
with you. Yeah,
okay?
totally agree with you.
Platforms are there to speak with each other.
Agree.
Okay. And once they speak to each other, you can give a little bit of technology to this platform, or a little bit of service from this platform to this platform, and the other way around. And the more we think about how platforms can leverage each other, the more we can create a new regional play or a new international play, because platforms can speak to each other. You don't need to go and repeat what others are doing in everywhere. And so my idea of international expansion is more about think about cross-border trading.
Yeah, so connectivity.
Think about international rhythms. Think about leveraging benefits that we offer to Egyptian customers to tourists. What I'm trying to tell you, think in a different way, okay? Because technology is enabling that to happen right now. And this will create a cooperative model that is leveraging all the assets, rather than creating a competing model where, competition is above all levels right now.
I could not disagree with you, because your point is, can I leverage more income which comes through, I guess, indirect sources, rather than me having to go to every country and creating an entity itself. Let me take a step back. You mentioned something very interesting, and I'm going to try and relate this to PayPal in a lot of ways. You've been there for 15, 16 years, right? You have actually had thousands of young Egyptians have come, worked for you. I'm sure a lot of Egyptian companies don't like you because you take all the talent away, right? Is there a growing alumni of ex-Fawry founders in Egypt?
Absolutely.
Right?
We are the talent factory without any doubt, okay? In any single payment company in Egypt,
right?
Okay? Many of the senior people is ex-Fawry.
Any founders who are notable?
Yeah. I mean, but not as much founders as executives. Okay. And this is one thing that keeps me very happy, although they are sometimes competing and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, you are proud that
no, you have a role to play.
Yeah,
if you're going to be the first at doing something, you're obviously going to have that, right? So you've got to accept it in good faith, right?
Yeah, in good faith, and when you step back, really, okay, and I'm 64 right now, so
you don't look your years. Well done.
You understand that big corporates does not collapse because of people, okay? So if I leave Fawry will not collapse, okay? Regardless of the notion of succession and all the stuff and all the big stuff that is being, because I haven't seen, except very seldom, that the CEO comes from the same company when the previous CEO moves out. But the whole idea, if there is a robust ecosystem and a robust organization, it will continue. So it is better to have many people outside and then try to find the formula how we can work together. And good relations makes this happen.
No, 100%. And especially, you guys are actually creating a wave of difference in a country like Egypt, right? Having that knowledge, that relationship with others who used to work with you and you don't, actually is hugely effective. I'll use the example of India, right? Because I've been watching India over the last 20, 25 years. And, you had the good old Infosys and Wipros and the TCS. A lot of the management which has come out of these businesses have gone and created new businesses themselves or gone as executive. And I think that ecosystem effect usually works to the advantage than to the deterrent.
Absolutely.
I do that. Let me flick away, because, one thing, your experience is going to be invaluable to talk about is, Talk about the regulator's mindset, right? So where is the Central Bank of Egypt with regards to, really trying to push innovation, trying to push what I call the future of finance? Where do you think things could be slightly different? I'm not putting you into the point in saying the regulator is good, bad, or ugly.
No,
right?
no,
We all have a
no,
similar
no,
reaction
no,
to the
no.
regulators.
I am known even back home that I am a guy that says what I feel. My relation with the regulator is extremely good. Okay. I think, again, the Egyptian regulator is very much looking forward into strengthening this ecosystem throughout the payment, the lending, whatever it is. But because of the fragmented startup ecosystem, they are as well afraid that those very small companies can make things mess up. Okay. So, they have the will and they won't, but as a regulator, they are a little bit hesitant how to handle that. Okay. And my belief is that the more we have big companies, the more ease we're going to have from the regulator, because it will create the trust required by the regulator that those are organizations that can take care. Okay.
I agree.
And we don't have to underestimate that. Okay. Because the role of the regulator is to make sure that the ecosystem is working properly.
Yeah, it's robust and it's built for the long term.
And
right?
we have cybersecurity, we have terrorism, we have AML, we have fraud. We have many things that really needs good investment, and sometimes immaturely you will find smaller organizations tell you, we are 100% okay. Okay. And including Fawry. Okay. At a point of time, this was actually last year we have been subject to a ransomware attack. Okay. Luckily, it was in our testing environment. But to tell you the truth, before this point in time, I was quite confident that we are very good. Okay. But after the event, okay, I had to dig deep myself into this security. And we discovered many things that we have to really do and do better. Although we are PCI certified, we have the firewalls, we have the intrusion detection, we have everything. Okay, you tick the boxes, the boxes are there. But it is about the culture. It is about the right implementation of the boxes. It is about having very expensive resources and very expensive tools. And it is about realizing that, it is not as easy as you think. Okay.
And they're expensive for a reason.
Absolutely. But what I'm trying to say is that regulator problems are real.
Yep.
Okay. And it is a joint effort. And again, as I told you, sometimes, small businesses or startups look arrogantly at incumbent banks. They look even more arrogantly
towards the regulator.
Toward the regulator. And this creates a friction that is not required. This does not mean that the regulator is perfect. Okay, the regulator is slow. The regulator is responsive in his own pattern. But it is not fair to say that the regulator is not supporting the business in Egypt. It is supporting the business 100%. But as I told you, you have to put yourself in their shoes to better understand.
So what do you think of the notion that financial institutions, people, organizations which are already regulated, like they actually have a very interesting and important role to play, because, I firmly believe fintech for the banks, fintech for the insurance companies is actually a great notion, right? And that legitimacy with the regulator comes much more faster if there was a large established bank which says, something, I want to work with, let's say, for example, Arjun's startup, which is doing KYC.
Yeah.
Do banks really appreciate the position that they are in to help the development of this ecosystem? Are they playing that role? Are you seeing that any evidence of that happening in Egypt?
Yeah, I think they realized that. Banks are investing like hell into.
Are they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Okay.
But it will take time. But it will end up that there are smaller technology as it was. Okay, but in a different format. Okay. So all the time, banks were using developers and software companies, blah 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 blah, and big software companies, and okay. So I think my vision is that it will end up that you have 2 or 3 big startups that turned out to be big companies on standalone basis, okay, and you will have many that are part of a banking ecosystem, which means you will add 3 or 4 players that are specialized in other areas, but it will not be 100 startups providing financial services. And I would claim that this will be across the region. And I have been visiting Saudi, and I met many of the players. And still, I believe that what will happen at the end of the day, it will be 3 or 4 big guys, and some companies that are more tied with banks. And this will be the new ecosystem.
No, I think the jury's out.
The type of offering is different, and we have to realize that the type of offering is different everywhere. You hear SaaS everywhere; it is SaaS. Everywhere it is cloud. Okay.
Everywhere it's embedded finance.
Yeah. So everywhere it is embedded finance.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say that it does not necessarily mean that you would acquire the customer, so that you are good. Okay. And you have to go to the old days, actually, and learn from the Chinese and Japanese, okay? That although the brand is, I don't know, Apple, or the brand is Nike, or the brand is the inputs, OEM. I recall the word OEM.
OEM, yep.
Okay. So I think the dynamics will work like that, because unless you are really disruptive, you are just faster. Okay? And it is not easy to say, I'm going to have 1,000 disruptors or 100 disruptors. Okay? But it is much more easier to say, I'm going to have 100 companies that are more lean and faster and can deliver to the quality better, and can deliver in a different business model. They are not licensing the software. It is being offered in transaction base. It is being offered per customer. It is being offered blah, blah, blah. And this creates, actually, it creates a more integrated ecosystem, because it puts everybody in the same boat. And this is important, because if I give you, coming from the software industry, I license to you, I don't know, a card management system for $200,000, okay? And then I take 10% or 20% license fee every year. I'm missing on the long tail. I'm missing on the opportunity, which means that the next time you upgrade, I'm going to try to recover what I missed, okay? But if you put it the other way around and say, Mr. Bank, I'm going to take only 10% setup fees, and I'm going to take £1 per transaction. Okay, it means we are fully aligned. It means that I am careful to grow the business with you, and I'm not in an opportunistic mode, but rather in a partnership mode.
So commercial models become...
So the commercial models become more sound for everybody.
Yeah, it does.
And it creates value much quicker.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think in every set of the business, every types of businesses, even in the world I come from, which is consulting, I think there is a shift towards what we call value consulting, which is, take a cut of the value that you create rather than anything else.
Absolutely.
So in that context, so let's just take a few of those hypotheses that or those suggestions that you've made, Ashraf, which is, we're going to see some proliferation. We're going to see a number of new kids on the block. Some of them will be, remotely arrogant, because I can give them that, because, they come up with new ideas, they have enthusiasm and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you're going to see certain consolidation and the emergence of a handful of big players. That phase in the middle is going to be, if I may use the term, dog eat dog, right? Because people are going to compete like hell. And the truth is, the vast majority of them will compete on speed, because true differentiation is hard to achieve 50 times over.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, there's only so many ways to differentiate yourself. So what is the state of competition right now in Egypt? Is it actually working against the ecosystem? Is it at the right level? Are people really understanding that this is not always the fight to the bottom? Because, that's another problem that you have with the startup world, that everything becomes the fight to the bottom.
We are in the pre-consolidation phase.
Right.
Okay. And I expect many consolidation will happen. Okay. And so, we have, when we started this model, like tens of companies, we will do the same, we'll do the same, we'll do the same. Many of them are surviving till now, but they will consolidate. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I think we are in a pre-consolidation phase, and I think that the negative role of the VCs and the money is vanishing, and they are starting to have serious discussions rather than serious presentations on the table. Mm-hmm. And this will make everybody think differently. And this is happening now, okay? All startups that used to be after growth are after positive cash flow, because they know that the next round is not cheap, okay? So all people that were thinking about opening in 9 countries are rethinking now. So I think we are in a very good situation right now, whereby successful smaller businesses will consolidate, businesses that have no value will go out, strong businesses will continue growing, money will come to grow serious businesses, banks, people will start speaking more reasonably. So to the contrary, I'm very optimistic about the future, and I think there are lots of opportunities, more than even we can digest. Okay, but what is important and what will happen is that people will realize we cannot all eat from the same plate exactly. Okay, because if you have 3 strong players in a market, it does not make any sense to come into the same market.
Fair enough.
And if you have seen 5 people are out of the market because they were not strong enough, you will not come to the same market. So the signals will be more positive, more rational, more back to fundamentals, okay? While respecting the innovation, the talent, the ideas, okay? So those are not contradicting things.
No, I agree. But I think there is a point that you've just made. I totally appreciate that there are 3 strong players. Why would you want to be a 4th? Well, there is an argument. If you can actually come, because see, the speed of innovation and disruption with new technologies is so fast. Let's be honest. When Fawry came in, I'm sure there are lines of businesses other players existed, right? It wasn't the first time you did it. So I do think that there is still opportunity, but you got to have something different to offer in the market.
Completely different.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to tell you that I always tell my people, look, bill payment was 100% of our revenue 5 years ago. Bill payment is 30% of our revenue today.
So how do you keep innovating? I want to ask you that question.
Because this is a consistent line of thought and culture within the company.
Right.
I mean, if we don't have 5 to 6 new things This can be new product features. This can be new industries. This can be. Then I feel that this is not Fawry. Okay. The only governing rule about diversification is that we have to leverage our platform.
Yeah. So you build from where you are. Yes.
And that's why, when we launch consumer finance, we will be profitable in the first year. Why? I mean, not because of the largest size of the portfolio. Cost of customer acquisition is low. Cost of operation is lower because I have common financial operations. I have common compliance. I don't have to build a new company.
Understand.
And this actually makes my road to profitability much quicker.
Agree.
Okay? But without new things, I mean, this is like, you are telling me you are dead. And I believe this is, if I'm advising anybody, okay, I always tell my people and my friends, don't think that anybody have planned his future 100%, okay? And I bet you that any of the stars you see around you, when they graduated, they didn't know where they will be right now. The only thing, you have to keep learning, you have to keep working, you have to be passionate. And if you can manage the three, opportunities will come. But if you drop any of them, okay, learning or passion or hard working, simply the opportunities will not come. And that's it. But it is not, that after 20 years I would be, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I think you got a point. I think we do all make our own luck to a certain extent.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
And I think those three building blocks, as you called out, are actually in the building blocks. Yeah. I'm conscious of time, but I'm going to put you on the spot for one last question, sure. Right? So what's next for Fawry? What's the next 3 to 5 years?
In terms of industries, we are going to the insurance very aggressively. We started that.
So what are you going to do in insurance? Are you going
We are going to tie insurance into payment.
Okay.
We are going to tie, I always tell them that the relation between the insurance and the service providers in the medical insurance, for example, is exactly like the acceptance. But the payment flow between them is not automated at all.
Not at all.
So there is a huge opportunity. More into making sure that we are part of the business of the enterprise or the small business. We are not a payment provider.
Which is the finance operations part.
It is the finance, and it is the integration into the rest of their ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And this is really where, because you have to imagine that payment, I don't want to say it is dead. No, it is not dead, but it is a very low margin business with very high competition. Mm-hmm. And if it is not part of the ecosystem of the business, fully integrated, the ability to churn is like...
Switching cost is very low. Yep.
Okay.
Agree.
So we are more into integration within industries, more understanding of vertical industries while lending, while saving, while making the payments, while making the payouts, while doing everything. But it is an industry. And
you have to do it, right? Because if you don't understand the sector, it's very deep to deeply embed.
Yeah.
And that used to be my number one problem when I was working for the Al-Futtaim Group. I was multi-industry, and I would meet a number of fintechs and a number of payment companies, but they actually did not understand how an automotive dealership is different than a real estate company to a mall company to a retailer.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's a very good point.
And I want to tell you something that, and probably you'll find the same in India, and probably the same everywhere. Small organizations that have developed software for industries are very valuable mm-hmm. to companies that are looking forward for an integrated, coherent systems.
Interesting. I agree.
And
because that accelerates your...
And they understand the industries extremely well. Okay. People who are coming from the payment background are infrastructure. They are the electrical wires. And so partnership and good relations and maybe acquisitions to people whose vertical solutions will become core into the entire evolution of the ecosystems.
So those are good. And well, I said final, but I'm going to ask you one more final. It's a personal question.
Sure.
What's next for Ashraf?
I don't know. I will keep with the same passion, with the same love, with the same. My ability to work more is not the same. I have to realize that. But still, the part that I enjoy, which is the development of new businesses, which is sitting with the people, is I don't feel tired from it till now. So I will keep doing what I'm doing until I cannot do it.
Do you mentor startups? Do you mentor?
No. I don't have the
bandwidth.
The bandwidth to do that, and
but not if you're innovating at the rate you are.
No, but I mentor accidentally. Okay. When somebody comes, but I don't join the programs of incubators and all the stuff and being in a class and all
No,
stuff.
I'm just saying, do you have not number of startups who?
Many come. Okay, especially this started to really be more happening when Fawry started to invest in startups. We are investing a lot right now.
Okay.
And so people come and they have more passion and more patience to listen than before, because I mean before Fawry would come and tell you, okay, how much did you pay to make this business happen? They will tell you, well, $10,000, and Fawry will say, we are willing to pay you 10 times what you have paid. And then they go to another guy who will tell them, I'm going to pay you 10 million. So Fawry was not appealing and was arrogant and was trying to capture the entire ecosystem. So, but the dynamics are more changing right now.
I'm more consistent. No, but I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming and sharing your very candid views. I like the tone at which you actually deliver. I guess you've seen the movie, as they say, a few times, right? But I wish you the very best. And I knew Fawry was big, but I didn't know it was that big, right? And I don't mean big in the size of market cap, which is what we all look at. It's big in terms of the expanse of the impact that you have, right? In terms of the products that you are doing, in terms of the number of people you have working for yourself, for you, the fact that you've truly created, I guess, an iconic Egyptian technology giant, if I may say so.
Thank you for that. And as I told you, I mean, it was a pleasure being part of this deep understanding and discussions about what's happening in the industry.
No, I appreciate that.
Because, many times it's fintech, wow.
Well, no, you're not negative. I think you're just realistic. And I think there is an element that, that realism has to creep into this sector. We still keep talking about, well, this quarter compared to 4 quarters was not as good. The question is, was it not good as good? This question still is, the amount of money that has been invested, has it gone into the right types of companies? That's the question to be asked.
Before closing, you always, in your life, some things you listen and you decide that you'll never forget. Okay. The ex-CEO of MasterCard, the guy who was heading the IFC or the World Bank.
Ajay Banga.
Yeah, okay. He was in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of his speeches, he said, you have to realize that people do not wake up in the morning saying, I want to pay.
I totally
They
agree
want
with
to
you.
do something else.
Yeah.
Okay. Focus on the something else, and then the payment will
take care of itself.
Take care of itself.
Agree.
So it just keeps ringing in my mind. This was, believe it or not, very key to my entire career, and so it is always good. And another guy from Google, I can't recall the name. Okay, that when he was asked how do you evaluate the business, he said, ahead of any study, you have 3 questions. Does it really create value? Okay. And we spend a lot of time until we have a definite answer for this question. It is not how we think it will create value. It is, does it really create value? And the second part, can it scale? And if the 2 things clicks or ticks, we develop the business case. And the business case is the least priority.
I think I should not say another word. You've just kind of homage to Ajay Banga, who is an incredible guy, and it's not a plug because MasterCard is one of my partners on this year's podcast. But Ashraf, thank you for coming in again.
Thank you.
Have a pleasant trip back to Cairo. I don't know when you're leaving, but enjoy your time in Dubai and have a pleasant trip back. And I'm fairly certain that whenever either you are here next, please. Look me up, but whenever I'm in Cairo next, I haven't been there for a while, I will definitely...
It is my role to bring you in Cairo.
No, I would love to.
But again, thank you very much for the invitation and looking forward to see you again.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ashraf Sabry, who is the CEO and founder of Fawry. You've heard the whole story about Fawry. I'm not going to repeat it. It is an incredible business and truly, I guess, a role model business which has come out of Egypt. For those who know me well, you know how excited I am about Africa, Northern Africa, and about Egypt. And I think there's some great businesses coming out of that. Here's one which pioneers that. With that, I'd like to say goodbye and till next week.